I have a sad story today. It's taken from the Táin Bó Cúailnge, which is one of the ancient Irish sagas, translated as the Brown Cow of Cooley or the Great Cattle Raid of Cooley. It's one of the early stories which set the character of some of the principal actors in the big tale. Thank you. Conor MacNessa is the High King of Ulster. The story is about a young woman, a beautiful young woman called Deirdre, and it's commonly known as Deirdre of the Sorrows. In the time when Conor MacNessa was High King of Ulster, his men were drinking in the house of one of his storytellers, Felimid MacDowell. Felimid's wife was pregnant. In fact, her time was almost due, but she supervised everything and made sure that everyone had enough to eat and drink. The day progressed in the usual way through a drunken uproar to a drunken stupor, and everybody was getting ready to sleep. She made her way to her bed. And the child, as she crossed the floor of the house, the child in her womb screamed and was heard by everyone. The men jumped to their feet in alarm, ready to fight. And Seneca MacAllister said, "No, take it easy. Bring the woman here, we'll find out what this is all about." But she was unable to account for the scream. She turned to a druid, Cafit, and said, "No woman knows what's in her womb. But surely you must know. You're a seer and a sage. And you can explain to my husband and to these men what has happened." And Cafit said, "I see a lovely woman with long golden curls, green eyes, cheeks that blush the colour of foxglove, crimson lips over pearly teeth. I see a perfect body and milky skin. Kings will go on their knees before her. Queens will envy her. Warriors will contend for her. There will be a heavy harvest of fighting men in Ireland." He put his hand on her belly and the child wriggled. He said, "Yes, there's a girl in there. She shall be called Deirdre, and she will bring evil." The child was born not long after, and he said, "Deirdre, your beauty will bring you fame, but desire and jealousy will follow you wherever you go, and destruction will follow them. Because of you, the sons of Usnap will be exiled and worse. And our stronghold, Owen, will be destroyed. Owen MacDoragh will commit a dreadful crime because of you. And the people of Ulster will be angry with their king." Men jumped up and said, "Kill the child, kill her, kill her." But Conor MacNessa, the High King, was there, and he said, "No. The child will be taken away tomorrow. I will have her reared for me. This woman I will keep for myself." And not one of the men spoke against him, although they believed in Cafit's prophecy. And so it happened. Deirdre was brought up by Conor. She was kept in seclusion so that none of the men of Ulster would see her until she was ready for his bed. She was kept in seclusion in a house with just a foster father and foster mother and a nurse. She grew up to be a lovely young girl. One day her foster father was skinning a milk-fed calf in the snow to cook for her. A raven was drinking the blood from the snow. Deirdre saw this and said, "I could desire a man with those colours. Hair like the raven, cheeks like blood, and a body like snow." And the nurse said, "Well, you're in luck, girl," she said, "because he's not far away. His name's Naoise. He's one of Usnap's sons." And it was true. Naoise at the time was below the ramparts of Owen singing. He and his brothers had lovely voices. When they sang, cows gave 2/3 more milk than they usually did. People were filled with peace. They were great heroes, great warriors. The three of them, if they were attacked, put their backs together. They were great swordsmen, and they could hold off any number of men and get out of danger. And they were great hunters. They were as fast as hounds, and they could take down wild beasts on the hoof. Deirdre went out and ran past him as if not to see him, to ignore him, to pretend. But he saw her and he said, "That's a fine heifer going by." And she said, "Well, it might. Heifers grow big when there are no bulls." And he said, "But you have the bull of the province all to yourself," he said, "the High King of Ulster." She said, "Of the two, I'd pick a game young bull like you." He said, "You couldn't. Remember Coffin's prophecy." She said, "Are you refusing me?" And he said, "I am." And she ran at him and grabbed his ears and said, "There's 2 years of shame and mockery for you if you don't take me with you." He said, "Get away from me, woman." But she grabbed him again and said, "You will do it." And she bound him. He gave a shrill cry. His brothers came running. When he explained, they said, "Evil will come of this. But there will be no shame on you as long as we're alive. We have to leave here. But we'll be safe anywhere in Ireland. There's no king who will refuse us." And so they did. They left that night with 3 times 50 men, 3 times 50 women, and the same number of servants and animals, and Deirdre mingling with them. They travelled around Ireland for a long time under protection, and Conor had tried to kill them by every means he could, by ambush, by treachery, by spies, by misinformation. But because they were great fighters, they escaped. But eventually they had to leave. They went to the island of Alba, where they settled on the wasteland and hunted the mountain game until it was finished. And then they turned to the capital of the people. And the people rose up against them, and then they went to the king, who hired them as soldiers and gave them land to build on, which they did. In the centre was the house of Naoise and Deirdre, kept away from the people so that she wouldn't start a fight if one of the men saw her. But early one morning, a servant of the king had an errand to run in the houses. He saw the sleeping couple and ran back to the king, and he said, "I never saw a woman fit for you until today. But Naoise MacCusnock has a woman with him who is fit to be the king of the Western world, the wife of the king of the Western world. All you have to do is kill him and you can have the woman to sleep with." And the king said, "No. But go and ask her every day in secret." And he did, but the answer was always no, and she always told Naoise about it in the evening. And now the king of Alba tried to have the brothers destroyed, because he wanted Deirdre. By treachery, by the same means that Conor had tried, but it was no use. Until one day Deirdre brought the news that there was a great attack being planned for the following day. She said, "If you're here tomorrow, you'll be dead. You have to leave tonight." They did, and they settled on an island in the sea. News reached Ulster, and the people said to Conor, "Conor, let them come home. It'd be a terrible thing if they were killed by our enemies." And Conor said, "Yes, give them safe passage. Send for them. Tell them they'll be safe." And so it happened. They came back to Ireland, but they asked for security. They asked for Fergus MacRoy. They asked for Duach. They asked for one of Conor's sons, Cormac. But Conor, in another act of treachery, had arranged for Fergus to be invited to a number of ale feasts, knowing that because of an ancient oath he had taken, Fergus couldn't refuse. Fergus sent his son Fiacha with the brothers. And then he and Duach and Cormac went to the ale feasts. The brothers had vowed that they wouldn't eat in Ireland until they ate with the king, with King Conor. So they made their way to Owen and waited on the green. Owen MacDonagh, who was one of the kings of Ulster, had been an enemy of Conor's for many years, now wished to make peace, and the price Conor exacted from him for peace was that he killed Naoise. He surrounded himself with hired men and went out into the green to welcome Naoise. And the welcome he gave him was a great thrust with a spear that broke his back. Fiacha lay down on the ground and threw himself open to protect him, but there was no protection for Naoise. He was finished off through Fiacha's body. And then the blood spilled on the green. No one escaped except by spike of spear or slash of sword. The women had settled on the ramparts, and Deirdre was taken with her arms bound to stand beside Conor and watch. When Fergus heard of the death of his son and of the treachery of Conor, he was enraged, and he and Dual came back and laid waste. They killed all the girls of Ulster, and they burned down into the ground. Deirdre never smiled, never ate, never slept, never raised her head from her knees. Conor sent people to try and cheer her up, and she said, "You see your warriors come back from the chase. I'm sure you admire them," she said, "but they're nothing like Naoise and his brothers. You send sweet mead, but they're not to compare with what Naoise made. You send me good food, Naoise prepared better. You send musicians to make music, but the singing of Naoise and his brothers was finer than anything else I've heard. I used to listen to their singing as they came back through the woods in the afternoon. I would bathe Naoise by the fire. I loved his blue eyes that melted women and menaced his enemies. I loved his fine form as tall as a tree. I don't redden my nails or my lips anymore," she said, "because I know he'll never come back." Conor tried to cheer her up, and she said, "Why are you doing this?" She said, "No matter how long I live, I could never love you. You've taken away the only thing I ever loved by treachery. Break my heart no more," she said, "for I'll soon be gone." And he said to her, "What do you see that you hate most in the whole world?" She said, "You, of course, and Owen MacDuragh, who killed Naoise." He said, "Well, go and live with Owen for a year then, and between the two of us, there'll be a sheep servicing 2 rams." But Deirdre had made a vow that she would never be the bedmate of 2 men living at the same time. But she went to Owen, went out in his chariot with him, standing behind him. Owen drove his horses very fast. They came to a gateway, a narrow gateway with stone pillars on either side. As the chariot ran through, Deirdre leaned out the side of the chariot, smashed her face against the stone column, made 1,000 fragments of her head, and she was dead. Thank you.